A very long time ago, it's quite a few years, well before the whole COVID thing ever happened, I was sitting down with me, myself, and I. And I would like to explain what me, myself, and I refers to. And I've been using that terminology now for over a decade. The me is me, what I am in this corporal form, this physical being here. Uh, Myself is the soul level, and I is the I am presence, the greater consciousness, the everything, all that ever is, all that ever was, and all that ever will be. It is, and I can only express it as the divine consciousness, or the universal light consciousness, that which we are. So as I was seated with me, myself, and I, a few things came in, and one of those things happened to be Cassaundra. You need to start something on YouTube. And they even gave me the title, and it was Conversations with the Universe. This, I believe, was in 2017. It took me a very long time to even post the first video onto that, and I actually did that during COVID. But it was meant to be so much more. And as we are nearing the end of 2014, the push is inevitably strong, incredibly strong. So why haven't I truly begun or truly stepped into the deep conversations of the universe? Well, there's a few reasons. One, I felt like I had to be completely camera ready. Well, here I am in front of you with no makeup on. My hair is not done. Meandering around my house, receiving messages. And it's like, sit down and record this now. Okay. That's number one. Don't be afraid to just be you, the authentic you. Have the courage to step up and say, when you have something to say, you do it. You have this mobile device which has this camera and recording system, do it. Okay, that was number one. Number two, what is it I have to say? Well, what I have to say, I was afraid to say. I'll be flat out honest with you. When I had shared the original little series of videos or recordings, they were just audio recordings, and they were audio recordings for a reason. My fear of being in front of the camera. I got over my fear of being in front of the camera only a few years ago, like literally 3 years ago. Well, even then, I'll say 2 years ago. And from that, then it was, well, I had to be all done up to be in front of the camera. Well, that's really time consuming. And guess what? That inspiration of what I'm receiving in that moment, it's going to be gone. Or I'm going to have to remember it or something. And it's like, okay, so it didn't work. It didn't pan out at all. And I stopped. And nothing happened. Today, Sunday, the 21st of the autumn equinox, it has hit me like a tidal wave. And with all that is happening now here on this earth, and they've been giving me a whole bunch of titles, and the titles are all about topics for conversation. Topics that, because I could sit down and talk about what it is I've received for information over the last, my goodness, 13 years in nonstop for hours and hours and hours. But I can ramble then, and it needs to be focused and to give you clearer topics with that information. My truth, what I receive as my divine truth, might not be everyone else's truth, which was also something else that had me nervous to do this. So there were all these reasons, all these excuses that stopped me or prevented me from doing this. The time is now. I have something to share. I have something that I'm also passionate about. I am connected to something that is worthy and deserving of sharing. I have something of value to offer. And if I keep my mouth shut, And if I sit back, afraid or embarrassed, or without standing in my power, that courage, the message will never be shared. Now, understandably, the message will get shared because once the universe has something, truth to share, it will choose a vessel for it to come through. And if it's not me, it's going to be someone else. So I have to stand up to the plate and stand in my courage, stand in my power, and share with all of you. And thus begins the true conversations with the universe. So every time I receive inspiration, regardless of how I look, regardless of the setting, I'm going to do exactly what it is I'm doing here now with you. I'll record it and I will upload it to YouTube. Now, I would also like to do lives. I would also like to interact with people, answer questions. When I'm in my space, when I'm truly connected, because we're not always, I wish I were, but I'm not. When I'm truly connected, it's just that divine channeling. So I'm always in the me and frequently in the myself. And then it is, you have to be in that space to be in the I. And so when I'm in the harmony of the me, myself, and I, that true holy trinity, I am all. And as it was given to me, and you'll recognize this one, I am the beginning and I am the end. I am the Alpha, I am the Omega. I am all, I am nothing. And the more I learn, the more I remember, the more information I receive, the more I know, then it's truly the more I realize I know nothing. There is, actually I would like to share that in this one because it's only at 7 minutes. And so we're going to start this one off with two things. One, and we can go deeper into these conversations later on down the road, but I want to give just a synopsis of it right now. When I came into the physical body, born as the child, the little girl that I was, I kept very much my ability to see things, know things, hear things, feel things. That was beyond most other humans on this planet. And it left me, I felt very, very alone. I felt so confused. The world did not make sense. I was fortunate enough to be born to a mother who at least embraced her psychic abilities, but was not well informed in this area and had certainly denied it. I mean, she trusted her intuition, but denied everything else. And so being born into this and facing the world, what, the mother-father figures and where they were at, and society and religion and school and the media and other people and their indoctrinations, it left me very, very alone with the me, myself, and I, but also the world of spirit. And I knew a few things. One of the things that I do have to share with everyone, and it's one of those complexities of life, because I knew love. I knew what real love was. I knew what true love, divine love, fifth dimensional and beyond. I knew the human capacity of love, and I knew universal love. All of this little girl knew coming into the body, and she kept it with her. Well, that was extremely trying. You go into relationships and you have this human level of love and the ability of love that you're capable of actually giving or sharing with a person or a partner in a relationship, and then their level. And every time someone would tell me they love me, I'd be like, yeah, no you don't. Because their level of love was so stunted, so low. And I had this deep connection of love. And well, thank goodness for it, because I've certainly needed it during these decades. It has been my blanket, my comfort, my support. It's also been a shield, but it's also knowing that I am loved, knowing that I have this love, knowing that I'm capable of this love, and then finally being able to turn that love and love myself. And having that love grow, the love of self, being madly, deeply in love with myself, and caring for myself and putting myself first, making myself a priority, knowing that I am important, and doing everything for me. This is where that path led to. I would like to share with everyone also that I'm 52 years old, and so I am not giving this to you from a light experience of life. I have decades behind me, lots of decades of learning, of growth. The next part of this happened to be a denial, turning my back completely on who and what I am, my truth, what I knew. I allowed myself to turn my back on that, deny it, and ultimately succumb to the complete programming of the matrix in order to function in it. My mistake. And led a very unhappy, very unhealthy life. And I can say unhealthy because so many instances where my health was, we won't say that ever, it just was not good. You cannot be in denial of your truth. Every part of me was shouting, you need to get back on the path to your truth. You need to embrace your truth. You need to go on that search for that happiness. Also the understanding that I knew that there was so much more to this world and that this wasn't it. And that what we were in, this was a lie. So knowing all that, having also this connection, not just hearing myself, not just hearing the I am, not just hearing spirit, but also having this internal, a lot of people call it intuition, but this internal clock, this internal system, this internal computer within me that processed the world around me and went, this is wrong. And I've been trying to accept it to my own detriment, and it's time now to deny it. And it took me, in 2004, I finally had the courage to step up to that plate, and then it took me years to finally walk away from what would be considered the mainstream. And in 2007, I ran off to go live my dream and find myself, to truly find myself. Once all that had happened, the awakening began, the understanding of myself, the relationship with myself, prioritizing myself. Now, doesn't mean that I didn't have some huge falls from that grace. Not as huge as the ultimate fall from grace, but lots of falls from grace. Lots of experiences that challenged, like, do you really love yourself? Do you really care about yourself? Are you really prioritizing yourself? And to what desperate mean or end? Once all of that took itself into play, we then had 2011 was an ultimate, and there was Cassaundra, you've wasted enough time. Go on your path now. And that's exactly what I did. Without fail, without falter, without stopping. And as we are now to the end, going to the end of 2014, we are over 15 years into it. So what happens? This massive awakening begins, and we're still in the awakening process. The more we learn, the more we experience, the more we grow, the more connected we become, the more we allow for ourself, our divine self, the more we allow for our true consciousness, the divine consciousness, the more connected we become, the more we flow, and the more we learn to create, the more we learn to literally dream our world into being, and that's ultimately where this comes into play. So now we have this awakening, this undeniable truth. We're now finally, so much of the veil is that we put over ourselves, because remember, we turned our back on ourselves. Now finally, it's time to lift it. And we see things again as we saw as a child what we knew to be true. We're seeing it again. Only this time now, we're not afraid of seeing that truth. This time now, we're not embarrassed about it. Because this time now, there's a world awakening around us. There was a huge influx of awakening and so much material, tools, other people who shared in it, communities, actual communities. And that, fortunately, was where I was then able to go. My sister actually found something for me, in which I was able to join a community of spiritualists, psychics, etc., that sort of thing. And so I felt at home in this community as we're all exploring this first part of the awakening, the first part of lifting of the veil. The more and more that truth then came in. Now, in that process, I had learned to channel. I had also learned mediumship. Now, I'd always had mediumship, but it was learning about controlling the medium. And the channeling, I didn't know how to do. And that was probably one of the best things I'd ever learned in my life. And I had asked for something very specific. And that very specific was I asked for whomever is best for me from within the light to be my divine channel. Guess who stepped up? I am. Me, my divine self, was the best one to channel. And I didn't realize that at first. It took me about a year to realize. And it was sitting down one day because I was just getting the information. It was so clear, it was so concise, it was so precise, it was so true, it was so dead on, spot on. I mean, I knew things that was like, wow, I was just tapped into this thing. I knew things that sometimes I didn't want to know. I knew things that I did want to know. It was just, and I was actually in a yoga session. And during that yoga session, I was flowing with the yoga and the breath. And then I went into, this being. And in that process, I just had one question, because now all of a sudden I'm getting all this information, basically a download, messages are coming in. And it's like, who am I channeling? Who came to me? And then that's when I shared it with me and myself. I was like, I should have known. But I didn't, and that's okay. So ultimately, that led me to developing the best relationship I possibly could with me, myself, and I. And as that grew, as that progressed, all of this information came in. And then I would look at the world and I would go search for it elsewhere and realize it's not out there. And then some people, good God, this would be at the end of, like, once we started getting into the 2017, 18, 19, and all of a sudden now I'm starting to see some of this information come to light. And then 2020 hit, and I'm seeing more people now having the courage to come forward. We are September of 2024, and I am finally hearing, seeing, watching in just literally the last week. So there's a lot that's happened, I think, from the influx of energies and consciousness rising in the last 3 months, as we are now on the equinox today. And in just this tiny short period of time, I've watched bits come out of literally, it was my information, but the universal truth, divine truth. I was like, okay, you know what? If I had shared this when I had received it so many years ago, I would have been the forefront, the frontier, the person who is like, no, because I'm sure someone else was also bringing it out at that time too. It's just a matter of who comes to mainstream, who becomes popular, whose information gets out there. We'll share this because I became I'm going to call it a spiritual teacher. And I had so many students asking me, like, oh, what books could they read? Did you read this book? Oh, what I'm sharing. Have you read? I was just looking going, nope, and nope. It's like, no, I haven't picked up a book in years. I meditate. I find my center and I go within. I open to my divine consciousness, and there's the information. universal. Someone referred to it as the universal light consciousness. I like that. But it's divine wisdom, the divine consciousness. And it's in that I've received all my information. And information that is, like sometimes I'll get words, sometimes I'll get actual information. It's like as if you've read a document, or like you've read, because this is where it gets some complexities, like you've read a scientific document or a medical document. And that's when I have to look up and go, I don't understand what I'm reading. Like the me, Cassaundra, doesn't understand what these are. These are words that I don't know. I have never learned. This is information I've never studied, that I actually don't know anything about. And then that's when they will share with me, go research it. Go do your research, Cassaundra. So, okay. In the last 4 years, and I could say that because it really started hard in 2020, and I started writing down things, and I dated everything and the information, and I also shared everything with my sister. So it was fantastic for me to be able to all of a sudden watch things, because the information is not just the fact that it's information. I'm also receiving, more than the average bear, and people like to refer to that as being psychic predictions. It's just where we are in this particular matrix, how the construct is, how it's scripted, and the timelines that are going to go. And if if humanity does not wake up to it, this is where it's going to keep going. And so every single thing, in every timeline, in every occurrence, with every facet of information, with every message that I received, and with things that were just mind-blowing, all happened. I got to watch them go off in a series of events. And then information that I'd received, which was in some cases like out of a sci-fi horror movie, a film, and then I watched it come to play, receiving the information and then watching where then scientists or whistleblowers or who would then take the information and try to expose it or release it. Now, of course, there's such a suppression of information. So all of these things happened. Now is the time. I am connected to something that wants to share, and it's been pushing me to share for a very long time. And now is the time. So we will begin conversations with the universe. And we hope that you will join us, that you will listen with an open heart and an open mind, and then you take whatever is your truth and whatever it is that might plant the seed of truth, and everything else you can throw away if it doesn't resonate with you. But we hope that you will join us, and we'll see where it takes us all. We'll see how it goes. With so many blessings of the light.